Hi Laura, welcome to another episode of Mythbusters. And today we will be discussing the myth related to aging in women, especially how women age and how men age, and how Laura has broken so many longevity myths from her beautiful, beautiful company, Mykigai, right? If I'm pronouncing it right. Yes, please tell us the meaning of this beautiful word. And yes, and now I'll give the mic to you, Laura.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. And that I'm glad that somebody just discovered my work and wants to learn more about it. So I spend a lot of time, I'm an advocate for longevity, what I call matching your health span to our lifespan. We are living longer lives. However, a lot of this is spent deceased towards the end of our lives with degenerative diseases. People in the Western world in particular are spending 10 plus years sick towards the end of life. And that's a very low quality of life moment. And it's also not the best way to come to end of what potentially was an amazing life, beautiful with friends, family, great experiences. And then 10 years plus of being sick is not what I call ideal. I spent some time at retirement homes and hospitals, volunteering my dog. I volunteer at long-term care facilities. The people working there are doing their best. However, it is not a good way to experience life in general. And I believe that the only way to change this paradigm is through longevity, basically practicing preventive health. And eventually one day when the science gets there, regenerative health. So that's why I spend so much time trying to talk to the scientists, bring them to the general public. I've spent the last 6 months on Clubhouse doing interviews with a lot of them, because I think it's important that people learn about the science of longevity, understand its potential, and realize that if we get into a practice of preventive health and taking care of our health from as early as possible, it's a compound effect. You will age better simply by the same way that you invest in your health and your money in your wealth. If you invest in your health, you're going to compound and be able
to. Yeah, you still can do it, right? Yeah, many people get so stuck. Like, I just don't know what is next. What is next? I'm like, just relax. Sometimes you don't have to like always, do something. It's okay to be like in hibernate mode and think about different things, like the traditional life system tells us go to college, work, get married, or if you don't want to, yeah, just continue living. And they don't realize that science has advanced so far, and sometimes they feel like whatever like researchers like you or scientists are saying is stupid. They don't believe in it. And that's the thing, like I did my research on micro expressions, especially detecting stress and a lot of suicidal tendencies and things like that. And the biggest difference was between happy people, normal people, like all of them had problems in their life, personal life, professional, or it was in between or confused. But the biggest difference was they believed, the people who were happy, they really, in my test also, they had really good numbers just because they had this belief, I can do it no matter what. And I had a set of people who were like, they have literally, Laura, everything, like the silver plate. I would not say silver plate, diamonds, like diamonds and jewels, literally like everything. And so depressed, so not the will to get up from your bed. So that is like the shocking difference, is definitely the mindset and definitely the belief system. It's very hard. It's like even when you see addict patients, it's like they are brilliant, but once they're addicted, it's very different to change your belief systems. And yeah.
Well, mindset is a huge thing, and it's even a huge thing in aging, because there's this thing called subjective age and how you perceive yourself in your aging process. And people that think of themselves as younger actually have better health outcomes. This is there's been scientific research that looks into this, and we have issue as a society and aging, a problem with our mindset in aging. There is the aspect that if you feel young, it's good for you, but then there's also the aspect that we are so afraid of aging, or even the media, the way they portray it, it's so awful that it gets people in this feedback loop in which they think aging is, first of all, there's a mistake of thinking that aging is something that happens when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. No, aging happens technically from the moment of conception. I mean, that's when
that's the technical. You're born.
Technically, the moment you start being an organism, it's when the moment you start aging. But we don't think about aging for a long time. Then when you start thinking about it, you become afraid of it because you're thinking, am I heading towards these things that look terrible? And aging has been made to look terrible in many ways. I mean, when you see older people with canes and you're talking about, I mentioned dementia, Alzheimer's, these are horrible diseases. And it is like something people don't want to deal with. But there are two things. Is if you know you're aging from an earlier age, then you become less afraid of the process and more cognizant of what you can do in terms of going through the process healthier, which should be the most important thing. Secondly, aging is going to change because we are changing. People that 20 years, a 60-year-old look very different from a 60-year-old now. A 50-year-old is so vibrant right now. We are making a mistake if we're saying that people that are over 50 are quote unquote old. That's not old anymore. And old is also very subjective in terms of we cannot look at chronology for thinking of our aging process. We need to look at our biological age, and we need to look at what we're thinking of ourselves in the, what we think of ourselves as, what age we are. Those are the ages that matter. Chronology, we shouldn't think about it. Unfortunately, society is very stuck in chronology. And I think the other aspect that is a problem is that some of these amazing, not everybody, but sometimes the scientists or the industry, they're talking about things that don't appeal to the general public. Most people don't care about living forever. They're not transhumanism. They don't even understand it. And because of it, they're afraid of it. And then there's the media who says billionaires want to live forever. So is this
crazy cycle of misinformation, right?
Yes. So it creates this failure of communication, which makes people push back, which makes politicians not take the scientists seriously.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that is a problem. And that is one of the things that I'm very passionate about, changing the language in which we communicate the potential of all of these science and research and technology. Because if you tell a person, if longevity science could actually help us eradicate dementia or Alzheimer's, would you still think it's wrong? And they would say, no, do it.
Yes, do it. Exactly.
Oh, these scientists are being funded by billionaires who want to live forever. Then people are like, no. Another horrible thing of why the world is so wrong. But communication is, I believe in two things. Messages, which is communication, and education. People need to understand the science better. We are having a pushback right now because of COVID. We live in a time where science doesn't have a good reputation. Saying the scientific approach, science-based, doesn't have the clout it used to. People have a lot of mistrust for science. They also confuse. They think that longevity involves technology and pharma. They don't even realize that longevity has not that many
pharmaceutical components.
So you go in, there are influencers that have hundreds and thousands of people that follow them. That is because it's holistic and it's some oils and some weird things that have nothing to do with
longevity.
Based things in terms of scientific research, but because there's so much distrust in the scientific approach. People rather go for that, and they think that that's more closer to nature, that we're honoring the world. And you then start getting into what you call the snake oil thing, right? And it's very dangerous because a snake oil is not going to cure Alzheimer's or dementia.
Exactly, such weird, and it's like community supported things, then they start killing indigenous birds, animals. They have literally nothing to do with it when I look at the computer vision scans and everything, because I'm working in that domain, and then I come across all these scans and then the medicines and blah, 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 what people use. I'm like, no, just chill. There is proper scientific, way to do it. But that's the thing, like when, like as you mentioned, when these things are miscommunicated, with the transhuman things, like I know personally many people who believe that chips will be embedded and the 5G network will control us, all these kind of crazy myths. In reality, it won't do that. So it's like, yeah, just madness and chaos, and yeah, just like that's why I
Well,
started Mythbusters.
I mean, nobody knows the future for as much as everybody thinks they know the future. And a lot of these technologies one day are going to happen. Will they? I don't believe in that dystopian side. I mean,
Me too,
when
yeah.
we look at the future, we think a lot of dystopia when we could potentially be looking at a better outcome.
Mhm. Mhm.
And in reality, the biggest potential for longevity science, or preventive health, is the fact that the model we're in is not sustainable in
Yes.
terms of caregiving, health costs. All of this is not sustainable in any way, in any form. The world, there's going to be more 60 people over 65-year-old in the Western world by 2050 than there's going to be under 15. If we don't change the paradigm of healthcare, if people are not aging healthier,
Healthy,
living,
yeah.
being
Mhm.
able to work longer, we are going to be in for a bad surprise. So I think you can make more economic arguments, better arguments in terms of talking to our
Mhm.
politicians this way than in saying, oh, this is going to be amazing because we're all going to live forever. Because I haven't met somebody who has told me or explained to me how the forever works. What
Yeah.
works in terms of money, what works in terms of family. I mean, if we're going to live the 200 or the forever life, then we need to know what that means. And I don't know if anybody who's promoting this knows the context of that.
No, they're, especially the influencers people, according to me, I call them the sugar people, little things and then they exaggerate. But when you do science, when you actually practice and go, whether you're in mechanics or electromagnetic, or the pain, you know what you want to prove and the time that it takes and the patience that you need to understand complex things. People don't have that attention span, and when they don't have it, they fail to understand, then they miscommunicate, and then they create this crazy cycle because, oh, I have a deadline, I have to push this article, I have to push this is what this person said. And then that's how it's like, the Chinese whisper game, like we always play when you are small, like you say a particular word, and maybe because of my accent I said, let's say Chihuahua, or it was Chi or blah
Oh
blah blah. By the
yeah,
time we
a
get to the
broken
fourth
telephone.
person, yeah, broke. Okay, maybe we call it Chinese whispers. So yeah, in different language it's different, but the meaning is same. Like by the time you communicate to the third or fourth person, maybe even the second, your information is already broken. So the quality, the real stuff doesn't get out there. So yeah, that's the misinformation cycle that you just spoke about. Yeah. And also, can
Well,
you?
I mean, it's communicating. It is an art form, communicating things to people to get them excited about them.
Mhm.
And I keep saying to my peers and friends in the industry, you don't have to be a scientist to be a good communicator.
Exactly.
And there are scientists that are great communicators and there are some that are not. But I think that people need to understand core messages as to why this should matter to them. And we shouldn't communicate things to people because of why they matter to us, because that's not how you get people interested. If I say I'm a millionaire and I've achieved everything in life, and now the only thing that matters to me is to live forever, you're not going to get the people in front of you interested, because first of all, maybe they're not millionaires. Second of all, maybe they haven't self-actualized. Third of all, maybe they cannot even think of what's going to happen to their life next year. But everybody wants more health. And that's why the message is very simple in terms of what the scientific research that these people are doing is crucial for us to live healthier. This is going to speak to more people. Extending our quality of life. Everybody cares about that. Everybody, I mean, when you do surveys, everybody wants to be happy, even though we don't even know what happy fully is.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It was like, I want to be happy. So this is like a want, a desire that people, even though it's sort of not a fully formed, what does happiness mean? And can you have it all the time? But everybody wants to be happy. So I really strongly believe that people would be more interested in longevity and longevity science if we communicated it better. And the other aspect is that we do need to get more women interested, simply because, as I said earlier, when we go through these hormonal changes during menopause, it affects our bodies very strongly. It is an accelerator. Something happens to us during that period that accelerates the rate of aging, and that's why women are more prone to things like Alzheimer's and dementia. So for me, like, one of my big missions is to get not another enthusiast to give me a high five for being into longevity, but to get women, or in particular people that don't have access, that don't know about the science, interested in this field. Because, like I said, I think the only way we're going to really change the paradigm of aging is with preventive health. Taking care of our bodies at every stage, investing into our health, and trying to get some form of practice in which you're monitoring your sleep, your nutrition, your stress. And you might not be perfect, and you might not have every Oura ring and like Apple Watch and tracking device and take all those million tests that you could take.
Trust me, you have it for 6 months or maybe a month, and then it's gone. It's like
well, see, this is the thing, is that we humans are very different in how they want to experience things, and not everybody is going to be tracking their every movement. It's just not for everybody.
Yeah, they feel like I'm in a jail, or like, what is this? Another tracking? No, like, especially after this COVID restriction, if you say like, hey, this is another device, like they are so, like, the public is so having so much anxiety from these. They're like, what data are they taking from me? Like, I have become the human capital, or like it has literally reached to that scale. Who is watching my data? What is happening? So people are now more vigilant, of course, and they're more like, they're like not so willing. But yeah, of course, when you have the next iPhone or the next iPad and iWatch, Apple Watch, there is a long queue forever, that because they have dedicated followers already.
Well,
but
I mean,
yeah,
the only thing that's exciting about all these devices that track biomarkers is, one thing is interesting to me from, for instance, natural language processing, that eventually with your voice, they would be able to predict falls, or they would be able to predict neurological damage. Or, I mean,
I know.
to me that is interesting, because then the technology will know your health outcomes before you do, and then you get into that preventive aspect of things. For
Exactly.
instance, the at-home test kits. Now you have access to so many test kits to check your micronutrient, if you're okay with your micronutrients, if your age biomarkers, hormonal tests, microbiome tests. I think that these things, which I believe, I mean, to me, they fall under the preventive health longevity. They are crucial for people to really take ownership of their health. They don't have to wait to be sick. They can check themselves out on a yearly basis and then see, okay, this seems okay, or I feel off, but when I go to the doctor, he doesn't understand. Then you test a couple of things here or there, or there's something very good about people being able to manage their bodies in a more sophisticated way than just practicing health by also measuring once in a while, not constantly, because like I said, tracking is not necessarily a thing that everybody loves to do, but you can always choose. And that's the amazing thing about having access to these products and technologies, that you can choose what works for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Like that's the crux of it. So, could you also tell us the difference between how men age, how their hormones change, and how women should be a little bit more, like proactive as they age or as they experience this menopausal changes? Or
Well, I'm not the expert. I just went to
okay.
talk to the experts, right? I'm not a medical
Mhm.
doctor or a
Mhm.
researcher or scientist myself.
Mhm.
But I mean, obviously, men's and women's bodies are very different. And I do know that menopause, it's a very stressing state. It's a very stressing period for women's bodies in terms of the changes that they go through. And that's why the rate of aging accelerates then.
Mhm.
However, I would say that one bigger and less explored aspect of menopause is perimenopause, which is the period before menopause. And from talking to a lot of women, I've learned that, I mean, even not talking about women, when you think that it was in 2018 that the first institute to study the longevity of female fertility was open at the Bach Institute, that is quite young, considering that we've been having of periods for, I mean, since there's been humans.
Teenage, yeah.
We figured out the pill for stopping the ovulation, and the women couldn't get pregnant. But why haven't we figured out better systems of management for menopause? Or why haven't we figured out delaying it? Or even maybe not even having to go through it?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
There's a movement where people are celebrating their menopause, which is, I think it's very good, because it's every woman goes through it. However, I do hope that in the future it is something that is not so corrosive to our health, and that in terms of management of it, it's much more preventive. So I myself am very curious in and I'm looking, I'm having for the next 2 months, I'm talking to women in the field of longevity about exploring the longevity of women. And in particular, also I'm interested in the longevity of female fertility, because women are tied to their fertility for having children. It is like a
Yes.
fact of life. It's crazy, but women are in their best years for having a child when they're in their like 25. And as you know, 25, you're so young. You're just coming out of university. If you went to university,
Exactly.
you might not be ready for marriage. You might not be ready for children. And yet, this is when our bodies are the best.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, we need to look at all those things, because one of the reasons we don't have, parity or equality fully is because we do have to take those considerations into our lives. And perimenopause is a period that is just now that women are talking about a series of symptoms that they start to experience even in their early 40s, way before menopause happens. And menopause is not something that it also happens at the same period for everybody. It depends on your hereditary genes. It depends on your own lifestyle. So there the one thing is that aging and how you experience it is a very personal thing. So precision medicine, doing things that are very personalized and knowing your own biology is one of the ways that I believe we are going to improve how our bodies get older, or how we can actually keep
Age
them
better. Yeah, yeah,
for as long as possible.
yeah. Yeah, because eventually, you know, that is the process we do with everything, whether we are making food or whether we are doing something or whether we buy something very expensive or whatever. Why can't we just do it with ourselves? Because first of all, there is not much awareness. Many people don't know the right question to ask. So like when you raise the question, they, hey, why did nobody study menopause? Why? Because no one thought about it. It's a male dominated society. You just come, you work, oh, you need to do this, and then blah, 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 blah. And hey, where is the space or the forum for real questions that affect women's life? You know, because women have always played the supporting role. And now that in this century they're getting the center stage, they are becoming CEOs, they are writing, and you know, they are like literally competing for equal rights, or you know, getting to the top. So this is like a very big question. Yeah, because even in like my personal life, people start asking me like, when will you get married, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I just graduated, I just in the pandemic I lost a job, I got another job, I'm still processing things, you know, not being home and so much thing. Okay, from the outside they think like I'm always smiling, which I try, because I know, studying micro expressions and deep diving into it, I just realized it's all up here first, and then that is what then comes out emotionally, or you know, you have physiological reactions or whatever. A lot of it has to do because of repressed emotions, or you know, whatever, like. So I know that you need to be very calm with yourself, you need to be very patient. And as the world is moving very rapidly, like things like the demand is like, you know, it has to be quick, 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 but that's not how we are supposed. We humans take our own time. And I think that you don't have the time to ponder about these very important questions, because no one asks it, right? No one puts that seed in your mind. And I personally in college, like I remember when we were learning about menstruation and things like that, everyone was so shy, including me. I in fact skipped one. We had like 3 days. I skipped one day, you know. I literally skipped one day. So because I was like, I just didn't know, you know, I was like, what are they talking about? Blood, periods, blood coming out. Where? But now that I'm like more into science, and I know the importance of it, importance of dialogue, and just finding out, you know what, there is like this big domain that no one knows, and it's the big unknown. And I'm like, oh, okay, still more work to do and still more awareness to spread. And yeah, so when I came across your work, I was very happy. I was like, someone is doing
Thank you.
someone
I
is
mean, I
asking the
appreciate it, and I,
question.
like I said, it's amazing to know that even if you even can even manage to reach one person, it's already great.
Yeah,
And I am very passionate about, one is getting longevity out there to as many people as possible. Now, but the other aspect is women only women know what they go through as women, right?
exactly. Yeah.
It's not something you can make people understand. Women who have children, women who don't, the experience of what it's
Yeah.
like to exist in the world, you know, when you're like in school, when you start your professional life, when you do things. It's a and men also, they only know their experience. I mean, we're different in many ways. The health of women is something that it's still in many ways has to be figured out, not only the fertility and the menopause, but a lot of other aspects. And one of the problems that we've, I mean, and I'm not, I mean, I don't want to get too into like the current system of, I do believe that there's the equal amount of male scientists and women scientists, and I don't think you need to put more women scientists to make the science better. Like, that's not what I'm
No,
talking about.
that's, yeah,
But
yeah.
I think what we need to do is explore what are things, what, you know, we're looking at studies. Are we looking also at women? Are we also measuring by the parameters of women's health and figuring out that will those things work? Because I mean, when you think of things that people are talking about, like rapamycin for longevity, the effect on women is very different from men, right? So we have different biologies. We're made differently. We're obviously going to experience things differently in terms of even some of these drugs. So it's just very important to get women involved in the field, interested, curious, trying these products, guiding also the research and guiding the investment. And also, hopefully, I do hope that more women-led companies focused on women's longevity do pop up. And not because it's not even about equality and all that, but because women are a huge market.
Exactly.
And if you want to make it about business, it's about 60%, 67% of household decisions are made by women. So they are the ones who are deciding on health. They're deciding on the products. You would do a lot to cater to women. It's just numbers. Simple as that.
Simple numbers, yeah. Yeah, they say a happy wife, happy life, or like, you know, that these things.
Well, I mean, I know they're like they're a bit you're doing cliches a bit on that sense, but it's true. And women are the biggest caregivers also. I know that there are men out there that are taking care of their parents. I'm not taking away from their what they're going as well. But the numbers also speak for themselves. And women are the ones who leave the workforce in their late 40s, 50s to go take care of an aging parent. And then when they come back, it's not the same. So we do receive just a little bit more of the brunt of a different thing than men do. And this has to be acknowledged.
Yeah. So thank you so much for discussing such an important topic. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed me asking you some critical questions in this regard.
Well, thank you for asking me. And I hope you attend some of the next couple of months, October, November. Meet some of the amazing longevity who are doing the research and who are going to try to get our health into a better place for the future.
Wow, I'm excited. And yes, I will stay in contact with you. And yeah, thank you so much for answering my questions.
Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye. Bye.